All right. How's it going, Downfield readers? Here we are Tuesday night. How'd you like that intro?
It's looking smooth.
I got to give it up to JC Money Design. If you guys need intros, stuff like that, he put that together for me. Fantastic. Loved it. Great stuff. Hey, guess what? I'm here with my new, hopefully every Tuesday night co-host, Chris the Iceman. How we doing, Chris?
Yes, sir. I'm very good. Happy to be here. Looking forward to talking some fantasy football.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm excited, as you could probably tell. How am I coming across here? I hope I'm not too loud.
Yeah. No, you are absolutely fine.
Perfect. All right. So, Chris, it's been a few weeks. What have you been up to, man? How many drafts? What do you know, what's exciting for you in the fantasy football world?
Not too many. We completed ours. My home league draft is Labor Day weekend. We, as we've seen, we have a lot of injuries preseason, and a lot of people being kind of stung by some of these first round picks going down in the preseason and training and stuff. And we know, obviously, I think we talked last time about you're drafting to try and you're not expecting injuries when you're drafting your fantasy teams. But we, in the league that I'm in, have had a couple of occasions where we drafted early, and then people unhappy that going into the first regular season game that two or three of their main players that they drafted were missing. So we now draft after the preseason. So yeah, Labor Day weekend is mine. So yeah, just really trying to keep up with everything, see what's going on, who's performing well in training camp, who's performing well in these preseason games, and who looks like those sleepers that we can get late round that people in my home league are not paying much attention to. Who's going to be the sneaky value, and who's going to do me well these first few weeks of the season when we might have some of those bigger names sitting out, making sure they're fully back from injury.
Yeah. Anybody that you've lost so far? Fortunately
not. No. Yeah. Touch wood.
No disappointments.
Yeah. no, none so far. No. So yeah, that's good for me. And just looking around to see, as well, let's see if any of the sleepers that I've picked up are going to maybe benefit in those early weeks. But I'm not on either side of any of these kind of little tidbits of injuries that we've seen so far.
Yeah, that's a plus, and we'll get into those in just a bit here, because today has been a day. To put it light, I mean, there's a lot of injuries out there today, and I'm not sure if everybody is really aware of everything that's happened today. There was a big one I'm sure that everybody knows about. There's one big one. There's a hint for you. But yeah, you know what? Let's just get right into it. Chase Brown.
Yeah, let's go.
Or I'm sorry, Jamar Chase, not Chase Brown. Chase. I don't know. They're both Bengals. They both have Chase in their name. Yeah, Jamar Chase goes down. And, if you saw the video I posted it on my X account. So, which, by the way, we're going to do a cheap plug. Jeff D at Downfield Read, X, Instagram, obviously on YouTube as well. Chris, where can they find you real quick? Besides here
at Iceman. Yeah. So aside from here, it's at Iceman_1013 on X. And yeah, with this season, we'll probably be picking up over on TikTok, a few bets and stuff. We'll start to, as we get into the regular season. Yeah, well, we'll see, and I'm sure I'll share a few on the show as we get into the real nitty gritty.
Yeah. So here's the good news about Jamar Chase, and if you saw the injury, it could have looked bad to you. My first thought was, and I posted it on my X account, was, is it just a hyperextension, or is there any underlying damage? It didn't look like your traditional, hey, he came down wrong, all of his weight came down awkwardly, and tore an MCL or an ACL or anything like that. It actually did look like a hyperextension to me, and it turns out that after he kind of four-wayed himself off to the sidelines there on his hands and knees. Apparently he was back on the sideline watching the rest of the practice. He was able to put weight on his leg, which didn't look like he was able to do at first. Turns out that it is just a hyperextension, so everybody can take a deep breath. And, he'll probably be ready to go for week 1, maybe a little bit meniscus tear, a little cartilage injury, something like that. But, he's a big boy. He can take it. They'll give him a shot, and, he'll play the season on, get that recovered and repaired next year. So in the offseason. So breath of fresh air for everyone who got Jamar Chase today. Whew, that was scary.
Yep.
Do you have Jamar in any leagues, or?
I don't. I mean, I don't think I've picked early enough. Well, like I've picked early. I picked at 1, but at 1 I took Bijan.
Yeah.
And then I've picked kind of back end of most of the other drafts, and he's going, 3 and 4. So
for sure.
No, don't have Jamar, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, even as a Ravens fan, I could say that I'm glad that he's happy, or that he's healthy, and that he'll be playing, because it's just not the same. When you're playing in the same division, you want it to be a good battle. You want to beat their best players, bring their A game. You don't want to beat up on a bunch of backups and a bunch of scrubs and stuff like that. So, but it sounds like he's going to be fine. So good news there. Anyone in particular, I'm going to bounce it over to you. Is there any one individual today that you wanted to talk about, outside of maybe the San Francisco 49ers owner? What happened there? I know that was big news this morning. I'm like, what the hell just happened overnight?
Yeah, no, I think the big one obviously is Ashton Genty.
Mm-hmm.
And just all of everything that surrounded that. That was a very strange kind of, he went down, the team had the prayer circle for him, and everyone kind of, I think the assumption from at least the X community and the fantasy football community on X, upon seeing and hearing that was what the players had decided to do at that injury, I think everyone then expects it to be a season ender. And then the news starts to trickle through that it wasn't that bad, fortunately. And, it kind of eventually came out that it was just that ankle sprain, and fortunately like a lower ankle sprain. So, maybe it might only be 1 or 2 games. So I think it was just a very interesting couple of hours and reaction that I think you got from a lot of people, where, people are drafting right now. They're drafting, there's drafts happening every night. There's obviously drafts happening online. People are in the midst of, whether it's, startup dynasty drafts, whether it's redraft. And Genty is one of those that I'm a big fan of. Like, I want to see him do well. So when the news came out, I don't really have him too much in redraft fantasy this season, but I do want to see him, like you said about Jamar. Like, you want to see these players succeed. You want to see the best players in the league. We want to see the best product be put out every Sunday that we're watching. So you want to see these players do it. But he's one of those that I'm definitely rooting for long term. So yeah, it was good to see that it was only a couple of weeks that he'll be out, because expectation is high volume for him this season. Him and Brock Bowers are going to be shouldering the majority of the work for the Raiders, and hopefully for them bringing through their new franchise quarterback at some point.
Yep.
And being able to really, hopefully for those Raiders fans, start to build something, because they definitely have some pieces there that could deliver them some decent football.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about the Ashton Genty injury was that we drafted in a league called the Dethrone a Hall of Famer. And that was one that has Greg Kellogg in it, and a bunch of other good guys in there. And so we found out maybe an hour before that we went live drafting on this Ashton Genty injury. And I want to thank, sarcastically, NFL Rumors, because their NFL Rumors was that he had torn his ACL. And I don't know, what kind of other speculation was going on there, but I'm looking at the draft board from that night, because we didn't know anything. Yeah. Ashton Genty goes round 6, pick 4. And Washington, his backup, went round 7, pick 6. What a damn pick if it's just a low ankle sprain. And I would have to verify, but I saw this clip of him supposedly at practice today, juking around back and forth. And that damn ankle didn't even look sprained. I mean, that's got to be the weakest lower ankle sprain I've ever seen in my entire life. And it freaked people out enough to not draft him for 5 whole rounds.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's just how reactionary. It just goes to show you how volatile the game is in terms of fantasy. Like how big a swing that can take. You drop 5 rounds because you don't want to take him based on that injury. And I think, like I say, I think the reaction from the players had a lot to do with it, and the way that they did it. And I think that's why everyone's reaction, or a lot of people's reactions, were trending to the worst case scenario because of how the Oakland players handled it there, and in the then and now when it happened. So hey, I mean, if whoever it was that if you did draft last night around that time and you got him, I saw people saying he was going in like the 8th, 9th, 10th round of their drafts. And if you managed to pick him up and you took the chance and you got him in one of those later rounds, and then you found out that it's a steal, you feel like you've kind of got one over the rest of your league right now already, because you've got 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, that was crazy. Clint Kubiak came out today and said that he is, quote, on the mend, unquote. So I'm not sure what that means, but his ADP is obviously toward the end of the first round here. When you're drafting next, is this ankle injury to you, is that going to kind of deter you from taking him if you had the number 11 or the number 12 pick?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
No, I mean, even if he's missing 1 or 2 weeks, I think your expectation with these players, especially the high volume running backs, is that they might miss 1 or 2 weeks in a season anyway. So no, I don't think it doesn't change anything in the grand scheme of things.
All right. The next one that I'm going to bring up was kind of a shocker for me anyway, was that the Cardinals ended up releasing Trey Benson. And I thought Trey Benson was actually going to be in the thick of things. I figured that they were going to let go of James Conner just because of his age and, maybe his background with his injuries and stuff like that. Obviously, their top 2 are going to be Jeremiah Love and Tyler Algier. So no matter who they were going to keep, it was going to be a third-round pick, RB3. But it turns out that the Cardinals just felt like they had more with James Conner. I'm not sure if they tried to shop him around, maybe trade him to a team that doesn't have quite as much depth at that running back position. But after 2 injury-riddled seasons, Trey Benson is out of Arizona.
Yep. And I think, he didn't get claimed, right? So he's back on the...
Yeah, he cleared waivers, so he's out there for someone to take. But, I mean, he is also injured. So you almost have to be kind of a desperate team, or not a lot of options. Maybe you've got a couple of different old running backs that maybe, hey, we're looking at next year, and Trey Benson might be something as a depth piece.
And I think that's what it comes down to, right? You're building these squads, and it's how many at each position do you want to keep on the squad? And I do think that maybe he doesn't get necessarily claimed right now unless we see something drastic happen over the next 2 weeks. But he's someone I would expect to get picked up once the season starts, and you get RB2s, RB3s going down with injuries or not performing, and they get waived. I would assume he gets picked up by someone during the season, and might be someone sneaky to keep an eye on for waivers when he does get claimed, dependent on where he lands. That could be a sneaky pickup later in the season.
Yeah. Here's kind of a weird one. We'll pivot for a second here. The Cleveland Browns ended up getting rid of Daquan Wright, and it's probably not a name that you're going to be familiar with. He was a tight end on the Browns, but why it's relevant is because he will probably be going back, and I hate to say, he will be signing with LSU. But
Yep.
that's kind of what happens in college football now. It sounds like he'll be going back to LSU, which will make him the first player in the NFL since they opened up this weird kind of portal from NFL back to college football, that he'll get to go and, I don't know, maybe tweak his skills a little bit and come back into the draft next year.
Earn more money is what it's all about, right? Like the NIL stuff. And I saw something about the Big Ten, I think, Big Ten schools saying that once you declare for the draft, you've made your choice. You can't come back again.
Yeah.
Just because this opens up this whole wide, like, and I get it. I fully get, like, if you make the choice, you should make the choice there and then. Am I going to the draft and trying to go professional, and am I staying at school for another year and earning some more money? Like, I can see both sides to it, but I think you need to make your choice. And once your choice is made, that's your choice, not this jumping back and forth dependent on, do I get drafted? Do I end up on a team that I want to be on? Do I end up in a team where I think I can get some, you know what I mean? And then it's just like, oh, okay, no, I'm not going to get any, not really going to go anywhere with this team. So I'll just go back to school. And, you know, yeah, it's just the whole NIL, it's made the whole thing it's just crazy to see, right? Because you think that the pinnacle is getting to the NFL and getting drafted. And this is just really changing the landscape of that for these kids. And I get it from a financial standpoint. If he believes that he can go back to LSU and earn more money in a year than he would on his rookie, on a rookie contract, then who can blame him? But yeah, it's a very strange one. And yeah, just interesting to see that he's the first one, and, you know, how many more are going to come after him.
Yeah. I mean, my opinion on, once they started to pay college players, essentially, is it just kind of opened up the whole thing to the Wild West. I don't think it's a very good look. Should they get something? Sure. I mean, they're already getting free college, right? I mean, if you're a starter, if you're in a program, you're probably getting on a athletic scholarship, and, let's face it, you're getting handed your way through. So you're going to get a diploma, or you're going to get a degree. You're going to get some football experience. But hey, let's pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars too. And this is just what kind of happens now. Here's the next gateway of, well, I couldn't make it in the NFL, couldn't make millions of dollars there. I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars there. And let's try again. I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't like it. I think it's terrible. Yeah. But I don't want to be set in my old ways either, but I don't think it's the right thing.
Yeah, no. I agree.
But moving on from there, here's a fun one. Is Kareem Hunt, 31-year-old Kareem Hunt, tried out for the Detroit Lions today. Spent his first 2 years in Kansas City, and then the next 5 or 6 in Cleveland. His last 2 years were also in Kansas City. Last year, he wasn't terrible. 611 yards. He was a backup. He was kind of part of that, 3-man rotation that they had in Kansas City. He went for 611 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's respectable, especially if you're thinking about a flex player. If you can get 8 touchdowns out of a flex player, not too bad for, a second to third string running back there. But tries out for Detroit. What does that tell you about, which, by the way, if he gets on, he's with Isaiah Pacheco, who also came from Kansas City. What does that tell you about?
Yeah.
What's that?
I said Isaiah Pacheco sat there like, bro, you come on.
Quit following me around.
Yeah,
we don't want to compete against each other again.
No, because he knows he doesn't. He knows he came out second best against him last time round. Like in Kansas, he kind of played second or third fiddle in the end to him. But yeah, sorry, I cut you off. What does it say?
No, that's fine. All I was going to say was, like, what does that tell you about their backfield? And they're like, Isaiah Pacheco, he's injured a little bit. He's questionable, whatever the injury was. I don't quite remember. Their next, I don't even know who their third round back is, or their third string back, but to bring in Kareem Hunt. Yeah. Does that muddy the waters a little bit in the running? I mean, for the number 2 guy, if you're drafting, and especially if you're drafting Jahmyr Gibbs and you're looking for a late round, handcuff, which I have Jahmyr in one of my leagues, And I was fortunate enough to land Isaiah Pacheco in just the right spot. Now, this was probably a draft that was done 3 weeks ago. So none of this stuff was even an issue at that point. I'm just thinking, hell, I don't know, just grab him. He's in a prime spot ADP wise. I don't know. How does that feel to you, Kareem Hunt?
I think I don't really know. I think it makes sense if Pacheco is not 100%, because we all know Gibbs is a machine and he's going to get the lion's share of the touches, obviously, but you also don't want to burn him out. Like you don't want him playing and so you need that backup. You saw how well he performed last year with the 1-2 punch with Montgomery. So they know it works, having a backup to come in. And if Pacheco it just to me indicates that they have a bigger question mark over Pacheco than maybe they did to start with what his injury designation right now. Like if they're unsure, they want to go into week 1 with someone that can play that second string role. And when they take Gibbs out for a down or two, they still have a running back that is going to make the defense go, okay, well, they could give it to this guy.
Yeah.
Because if you take Jahmyr Gibbs out and Pacheco's sidelined, and then you've got your third string, it's Sione Vaki.
Yep, exactly.
So if you've got him going at running back, your defense automatically goes, okay, well, now we can step back and extra man on Amon-Ra, extra person on Jameson Williams. It takes that element away from your running game. And now all of a sudden Gibbs has to play every down. And the risk of injury there becomes even greater. So I get the idea of you want that second person to be someone that is going to make the defense go, okay, well, again, like you said, Kareem Hunt, he can score the touchdowns in your short yardage situations. He knows what he's doing. He's going to get it. So from that point of view, I think it does make perfect sense. And that's what I say, like I just assume that the Pacheco injury is a little bit more than, again, he worked out, right? They haven't signed him yet.
Correct.
It was just they brought him in just to see. But I do think, to your point, Kareem Hunt is a great pickup for a team in that situation. He's been around the league. He's been on championship winnings. He's been on championship winning sides. He knows, you don't just rock up to the Kansas City Chiefs and just align with that offense, with that management program, and go, and don't get the touches if you're not good. You know what I mean? Like he can do a job for you. So if you are struggling, or you're in that position where your question mark is over your RB2, Hunt is a great pickup. And if they have Pacheco, sidelined for 3 or 4 weeks, Kareem Hunt come in, do a job for 3 or 4 weeks. Pacheco comes back, takes that second string job back. Great. Hey, there's no harm, no foul for the Lions to just bring Hunt in and just say, hey, we're going to need you for 6 weeks. We want you to go in, do a job for us. And hey, when we're up in games, you're going to get the touches because we're going to sit Gibbs. Like you're then going to go out and it's going to be Vaki and Hunt. And it's also someone from these guys to learn from, because he's been around the league for a long time. And you kind of forget that, again, Pacheco is a few years, and hey, Gibbs himself hasn't been in the league that long. It seems like he might have, because of the way that he's kind of just progressed, and he feels like he's been there a long time, but he will still learn a lot from someone like Kareem Hunt, who's been around, seen a lot of stuff. So just from that perspective as well, giving them the locker room, someone, with that, with that skill set and with that, it's just hugely, it's nothing but helpful, I don't think.
Yeah. And I think no matter what, the Lions will probably end up, I would put money on the fact that they're going to end up signing him for nothing more than, if you want to call it, preseason fodder. You've got Vaki is hurt. You've got Pacheco is hurt. They're both questionable. Season starts in 2 weeks, man. We got to get if they know that, Pacheco and Vaki are going to be their number 2 and number 3, well, then who are you going to hand the ball off?
Yeah.
Maybe you bring in a veteran like Kareem Hunt. You see how he does. You save the legs of your other guys. You give him a little bit more extra rest. You're definitely not putting Gibbs out there for the preseason game. So
yeah,
it might just be something, hey, let's give this guy a shot. We'll see what happens. Maybe he looks good, and I don't know, maybe try to trade him or something. You never know what running back is going to get injured next.
Nope. That's it. So I think, I think for late round darts, darts in leagues, he's going to get touched. Like, I wouldn't, if he comes in and he does well first 2-3 weeks, he definitely takes, like I said, those short yardage situations and red zone, especially, is where, like you said, with those 8 touchdowns last year, if I took Gibbs at 1 or 2 and they sign Hunt, I don't know, there's 1 or 2 touchdowns there that you might have that might, and we saw that last year. You saw that last year with Montgomery, and and which one of them is getting the touchdown. But I think that Lions offense is good enough to feed. You saw it last year, right? It's good enough to feed all of the mouths most weeks. Yeah. So as much as you might lose 1 or 2 touchdowns, Gibbs is gonna still put up, RB1 fantasy points for you most weeks.
I do agree. Let's move on to the next one. I think we've beaten the Lions backfield here. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts. The big question mark there, Alec Pierce. Is he going to make an appearance this week? Apparently he's getting close. Apparently he's going to be practicing this week. He's expected to return. And in the meantime, the Colts have already signed Keenan Allen to kind of take over that role. And if you had Josh Downs on your team, you're already kind of feeling that pain a little bit because, Keenan Allen is kind of like a Michael Pittman type person that they had last year. Michael Pittman, of course, goes to Pittsburgh, and then they bring in Keenan Allen, who did fantastic for the Chargers last year. So Alec Pierce, what is your hopes on Alec Pierce this year?
I'm just torn between. I was before the Keenan Allen news, right? Like between him and Downs, which one of them is going to become the alpha?
Yeah,
in that offense, and is going to have the relationship with Daniel Jones to really break out. Because, like you said, there's no one else that's really going to compete with the two of them. You obviously have Tyler Warren at tight end, who has a big bump because of the injury news to both of those guys. Like, he becomes the primary target for Daniel Jones. I was interested to just see how that played out this year, with Pierce and with Downs. Keenan Allen coming in, like you said, I picked him up like last pick. I think it was our draft. It was one of the drafts I was in. I picked Keenan Allen up late round, like right after the news broke, because again, I just think in a league where you're getting points for first downs, Keenan Allen with the experience becomes kind of the go-to guy. He was Justin Herbert's go-to guy in first down situation, like in when you're in third down situations. So I think it does it. I'm not too concerned with the injury too much. I think from everything I've read, there's not really a concern with him being put on the physically unable to perform list. So it's just a case of they don't want to risk him too early. So I would assume that he's fine for week 1. But yes, I'm definitely interested to see, and I'm not honestly sure that I have a hard line on whether him or Downs becomes the RB. I'm just interested to see how that goes. I haven't got any shares of either. Yeah. I've been picking up Tyler. What if I'm taking a Colts receiver? I'm taking Tyler Warren, and then taking a shot at Keenan Allen in the late rounds. But just very intrigued to see how that Pierce Downs thing goes. They could both do well. Hopefully, again, as we say, hopefully they both do. But yeah, I don't think anything really is impacted by the injury. I'm not, at least not too concerned as it stands today with him and not being ready for week 1.
Yeah, if you can, and here's a little, trickery that you can do in your fantasy leagues. Currently, I have Alec Pierce as wide receiver 45. If he's there in the 10th round, maybe late 9th, mid to late 9th round, I might take a shot on him just, as a flyer, if for somebody that's going to come back. The neat thing about that is if your league has an IR spot, he's currently listed as out. So you can immediately after your draft, put Alec Pierce in your IR spot, go grab somebody else.
Yep. That's a very sneaky, but definitely, yes, if your league has those IR spots. I know some, like my home league doesn't. We don't have IR spots. We have like an extra bench spot for that.
Okay.
But yes, if you do have those, and I know like most leagues that are on Sleeper tend to have those IR spots built in, then yeah, definitely something to be mindful of when you're picking up those players that are right now listed as out.
Yeah. Sticking with the Colts a little bit here, we've got Anthony Richardson is slated to start in the last preseason game for the Colts against the Detroit Lions. He is currently slated, if you look at the unofficial depth chart for the Indianapolis Colts, he is QB3 behind Riley Leonard. Do you think they try to... let's just talk hypotheticals here. Anthony Richardson, are you high on him or not? I am not. I don't think that he was really ready enough, especially for a first-round draft pick when he came out of college. I saw him very much unfortunately, like an RG3 type of a player. And unfortunately, it looks like his fate has kind of gone down similar paths with RG3 being hurt. His inability to read defenses, his inability to get rid of the ball quickly. If Anthony Richardson is put on the practice squad, do you think he stays there, or do you think another team grabs him? And then who? Because I've got one team in mind that I think would take a shot on Anthony Richardson.
Is that team Miami?
No, it's actually I could actually see two teams, and one of them wasn't Miami. It was either Cleveland or Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta. I can see Atlanta. I think Cleveland. I would be surprised to see him go to Cleveland the way Cleveland is set up. I know they starting Deshaun Watson. They want to see whether they're going to make any money. Well, they're going to make anything out of the money that they paid him before. But right. I think they're kind of set on Shedeur as their eventual QB1. I don't see why they were. But again, that doesn't mean that as QB, like if they do eventually make him QB1, that you wouldn't pick up someone like Richardson. Richardson has the talent. He has the potential. He showed at Florida, like that he can, and he's flashed it for the Colts once or twice. But yeah, I mean, I would, like I said Miami because I kind of feel like, they have Malik Willis, but Malik Willis has not yet shown to be, he's not yet grabbed his opportunities that he's been given with both hands. Will he do that in Miami, or Miami just tanking the whole season? I've seen that from a few Dolphins fans, that they're just already planning to tank the entire season. But I think Richardson needs a fresh start somewhere else just to see if that can give him the boost. I would like to. I just, like you said, I think he wasn't ready, too immature, and I think that was shown by some of the things that he had said in interviews and whatnot. When it was up in the air about him losing the starting job and that whole season. So, and I just think that shows immaturity from that perspective. And I think, if you're a leader on a team, like you can't do that. And I think that's where there's a difference, right? You've seen Sanders come out this week and give interviews after last week's game. And that shows a level of maturity where he is ready to lead a team. And you look at that and you go, okay, no, like, so that's not, that's more of a, okay, we just need, your actual performances to now match up to how you're holding yourself and how you're going about it off the pitch, where off the field. Whereas Richardson was not performing necessarily to those levels on the field, and then he's coming off the field and saying things which are also people are looking at side. You know what I mean? I just think there was
it's
a
like
level
he's
of
trying to make Browns fan hate him even more. Isn't it ridiculous at this point? It's like, oh, why would you boo me? I don't know. Maybe because you sucked 5 years out of their franchise's life with your terrible play and your gigantic paycheck.
Yeah, so I think Richardson is in that situation. I think he just needs a fresh start. I would, again, one of these. I think the talent is there if he harnesses it in the right way and he gets someone to get hold of him and has someone to learn from.
Yeah,
I think maybe that was maybe the problem in Indianapolis. Like, did he have that mentor to really show him the ropes and therefore going and we're going to, it doesn't always work out that way. You don't always get that. Like you said, you mentioned Atlanta, which is another one. They don't necessarily have, but who's mentoring him?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, because they themselves have.
In Atlanta, when they had Kirk Cousins either. I mean, you got Michael Penix and a lot of these guys, I get the mentoring thing, but even, one of my favorite guys, Joe Flacco, he was, when they were bringing on younger guys at, wherever, when he was with the Jets for a little bit and Denver for a little bit, he's like, it's not my job. My job is to go out and win football games. It's not my job to mentor people. Nobody wants to see, if you're a 34, 35-year-old quarterback, it's like, wow, why would I, coach this guy to take my job type of a deal. But I get your point. Jacksonville, they had another wide receiver scare, just like Cincinnati did. Sounds like Brian Thomas Jr. Banged up his shoulder a little bit, but they came out and said that he's all right. Shoulder injury is not that big of a deal. How are you feeling about Brian Thompson Jr. in that offense? Because right now I've got him at wide receiver 33. And if he were there in the middle part of the 7th round, I guess, I would probably take him in the same kind of a realm with maybe between like a Michael Pittman, Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton type of area. Do you think Brian Thomas Jr. is ever going to get that wide receiver 1 status back? Or are you high on Parker Washington, who, by the way, I've got probably somewhere around wide receiver 30, I think, just a little bit above him, going mid to beginning 6th round. What's your take on the wide receiver crew in Jacksonville?
I like Brian Thomas Jr. I am high on him. I do think he is the best receiver they have by a stretch. It's just a question of whether he can actually deliver. I would like to see it. I just don't think I know that Parker Washington, they've got Jacoby Myers. They obviously have Travis Hunter playing both ways. They have the potential to be a solid offensive unit if Trevor Lawrence can get them the ball. I wouldn't, if I'm a Jacksonville fan, I don't very much trust. I wouldn't trust any of these guys to step up and be. I don't think any of the. I don't think Parker Washington is the wide receiver 1. I don't think Jacoby Myers has got it. They're great pieces to have as your 2 and 3 and to have as deep threats and whatnot. But I do think they need Brian Thomas Jr. to step up and to give him that. And Trevor Lawrence has got to play a part in that, in coming out and throwing him the ball. And plays a part in giving him the ability to put those numbers up. I would take Brian Thomas in that realm of people that you've talked about, alongside like Cortland Sutton and those guys. And he would be the one I would want. I have seen a lot of people, going on Parker Washington, and I think that's like raised his stock. That's a little bit too high for me to take. I think if Brian Thomas goes down or has any time on the sidelines, then Parker Washington automatically becomes elevated. But I just don't know if Parker Washington is going to deliver at the same kind of height that he did the back end of last season. And I think there's maybe a lot of recency bias that is in people assuming that he performed well at the end of last season. That just carries straight on into this season, which Like, if that's the way you're looking at it, like, I can't tell you that that's not going to happen. It's sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to Kansas City. We've got Kenneth Walker with a foot injury, not expected to practice. Didn't practice today. Might be held out for a little bit of time this week, and apparently he has a foot injury. Do you have any shares of Kenneth Walker? Were you high on Kenneth Walker? Because I know a lot of guys drafted him really early in some drafts that I was in. I did not have the same kind of hopes for Kenneth Walker signing that 3-year deal in Kansas City coming off of Seattle, just because, as we know, in Seattle, it was him and Zach Charbonnet. They were splitting time back there because of injury issues. So what is your take on Kenneth Walker?
I still am high on Kenneth Walker. I'm hopeful that this isn't just a precautionary thing, just like because he is their guy this year. So I'm definitely high on him. Obviously, as we know, we talked about that backfield in Kansas as kind of they've been missing. They've been searching for an RB1 to really come in and just take over that backfield. And I think Kenneth Walker has the potential to do that this season. So very just really hopeful more than anything that this is just a keep him out precaution. We want to make sure he's ready for week 1. So, he wasn't going to play preseason anyway. Just hold him back a couple of sessions, and it not be too bad. I would assume that Big Red Andy Reid knows what he's doing. He's not going to put him in
Big Red
way. Yeah. So I would like to think that he's going to be fine.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker right now, I've got him at RB12. Kind of mid to late second round, depending on where he falls, and if he falls into your lap. Patrick Mahomes, another one, coming off his ACL surgery. Told reporters that he feels better, feels like he's getting back to his original self. Patrick Mahomes, you got any stake in him sticking with KC?
Not from a fantasy perspective, but I'm a Chiefs fan, so I have a lot of stake in him from that perspective. No, I think I would not be surprised to see him go and deliver a comeback player of the year kind of season. And from injuries like that, the one thing I know about Patrick Mahomes is that he will put the work. Like, injuries to him, he's just one of them guys that just seems to come back from injury quicker and better than anyone kind of expects. Just sort of like, what I mean? Like, he's in like that top 10%. And I know all these guys we're talking about are athletes at such a high level. So, they're not coming back from injury like me or you or anyone that's listening. When we get an injury like that, we're unable to walk for weeks on end. Like, these guys are the highest level, but I think he's even like the top 10% of the top 10%, in terms of the way he looks after himself and the team that he has around him to make sure that he is going to bounce back. And to see him come out and say that he's hitting all of his checkpoints on his recovery is huge. And yes, if you have him in fantasy, the potential is there for him to have. I think he's going to be one of those that is a sneaky pick. I nearly picked him up in another league that I'm in. I was picking up around the Dak Prescott, Caleb Williams kind of. And I had Patrick Mahomes as my third choice. And I was like, I'm going to pick 2 of the 3 of these guys. Okay. And I was picking. I picked first, so it was kind of when it was coming back to me, like maybe I think 10th and 11th round. Those back-to-back picks, and those guys were left. It's a 1 quarterback league, so I ended up going with Dak and Caleb. But Mahomes was like around, and I would have been happy with Patrick Mahomes there. So I think if you've got him as your QB this year, or he's even your QB2, I've seen some people take him as QB2 that already have picked up a Joe Burrow or a Lamar Jackson. I definitely think he's one of those that if you sneakily took him as QB2 and you're going to wait and see how he goes, like he could prove to be a very valuable asset to your team. So I think sounds like he's back on track, and like I say, I would not expect anything less than a big season from him.
Yeah, I've got Patty at QB 14 right now, and I just moved him up a little bit past Jared Goff, so I've actually got him between Bo Nix and Jared Goff. If you can get him in the 9th, whether he's going to be a starter, you can get. I mean, Jared Goff is a great starter. Bo Nix is a great starter. I mean, these guys can. Pat Mahomes is going to be a great starter. He's for as cheap as you can get quarterbacks this year. What I found in drafts, getting Pat Mahomes in the 9th. I think that's a great ADP for him, and solid. But moving on from the Chiefs here, I've got somebody that maybe is a little bit irrelevant. I follow a lot of, regular NFL drafts. And so one of the guys that was in the draft this year, rookie Chris Bell in Miami. He's expected to play this Friday in the preseason game in Atlanta. We haven't seen anything from him yet. He's been nursing an injury as well. But Chris Bell is one of these guys, just kind of looking at my pre-draft rankings here. I had him 13th overall, 13th best wide receiver coming out of Louisville, 6'2", and I had him kind of slated as, hey, a good starter within 1 to 2 years is basically my notes on Chris Bell. Now, that wide receiver room in Miami, and obviously they have a new head coach. They've got a new quarterback there in Malik Willis. A lot of people aren't real high on the wide receiver room. You hear a lot of things like, somebody's got to come out on top, right? And typically what they're talking about is Malik Washington is that guy. Caleb Douglas is making a lot of noise lately. I think he has actually solidified himself as the wide receiver 2 in Miami, because now they're holding him out of games, right? They've seen enough from Caleb Douglas. We're good with him. There are other guys that they've got there, guys that you've heard of in the past, Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, great. But if they're going to go younger, Chris Bell is one of these guys. Do you know much about Chris Bell? Any thoughts about the wide receiver room in Miami?
No, I don't, but I completely agree that someone has to, whether they're tanking or not, like they're still playing in games. Malik Willis is still going to want to go out there and throw the ball and actually show that he himself has got an arm. Is not just another running quarterback that is going to just run, like he can throw the ball as well. So someone has got to. I don't know much about him, and prior to Caleb Douglas coming out in these preseason games, I had taken Greg Dulcich.
Yeah, I like Greg Dulcich. I think he's a great late-round pick.
Yeah, as a sleeper pick, because, again, I think Malik Willis will, at least to start with, rely on, throwing the ball to his tight end and just getting some completions. Yes, but when you're up against Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, for that wide receiver 3, I think Chris Bell has a great chance to come in now, this preseason game, and show what he can do. I think, hey, when you, and again, he has to be coming into this going Malik Washington, Caleb Douglas, him, someone, it's not going to take much, I don't think, for one of these guys to stand out. Whether that's Caleb Douglas, whether it's Chris Bell, they've got to be looking there thinking this is a great opportunity for us to be in an organization as well. There's as storied as that is, to play for the Miami Dolphins. And if they are building something and they're, they might only win 4 games this season, but they're going to get first or second pick in next year's draft. They've got Devon Achane, who is a phenom in the backfield. So, I definitely think this is the time for these guys. Like, if Caleb Douglas and Chris Bell can step up this year and do a job and cement themselves. You know, you've got some pretty big shoes to fill there in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who have obviously been the wide receivers for the last couple of years. You know, these Dolphins fans now rocking up, and you're looking at two rookies and Malik Washington. Now, you know, like that's your wide receiver room. It's quite a change, but hey, like it's definitely the potential is there for these guys to really stamp their mark, put their mark on this offense, and to create that relationship with Malik Willis. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think you could very well take punts on either of these guys because, yeah, the first few games will show us a little bit more about who is creating that relationship with Malik. But like you said, someone's got to do it at some point. One of these guys has got to step up.
And what a great young wide receiver group that is, because Malik Washington was picked in the 3rd round a couple of years ago, or I'm sorry, 6th round a couple of years ago. And then you've got both Caleb Douglas and Chris Bell picked in the 3rd round this last year. And they were like maybe 20 picks apart where they took them both in the 3rd round. So obviously the need was there. They knew that they weren't going to have Jalen Waddle. They knew that they weren't going to have Tyreek Hill. They weren't going to have all this stuff. It's definitely a rebuilding year, but what a great young wide receiver group to work with. All these guys really have a lot of talent. So pretty cool. I still don't think that they're going to win more than like 5 or 6 games this year, but hey, you got to start somewhere with these guys. Next team to move to that I want to get to is the Minnesota Vikings, and really no injury news here except for Ty Chandler was placed on the injured reserve. But he was kind of a non-factor as far as a running back in that scheme of thing anyway. He might have been RB4 at this point, but we're looking at the quarterback battle between J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz. Did not see that coming as far as a quarterback battle behind Kyler Murray, of all people. Did you happen to see any of the preseason games, the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy?
I didn't, and I really don't know what's going on over there. Like, I just saw a lot of like what JJ had been kind of like the tweets that he had put out when obviously he found out that he had lost QB1. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Kyler Murray. I liked him and I think he also another one of these, that we talk about with these quarterbacks and just the immaturity, the off-field stuff. Like his was that he wasn't reading notes, looking up the play. Like he was playing Call of Duty, right? Like that was the Kyler Murray thing. That it's about the video games was where he was spending his time rather than in the playbook and learning like all of the plays and stuff. So again, just shows a level of like, again, when you're a franchise quarterback and you're getting paid millions of dollars, do your job, bro. Like right. It's really simple, right? Like, so to see him go in and win, I was a little bit surprised because I didn't mind Jay. I thought they would give JJ a shot, like a fair shot. They've obviously seen something in Kyler Murray, and then to have Carson Wentz there, and then the question marks over is JJ even going to be the backup? I mean, again, like Carson Wentz has kind of been there, done that. Like he's been on good teams.
Yeah. He was on a Super Bowl winning team with the Eagles.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. If I'm JJ McCarthy and I get now down to QB3, again, that becomes another Anthony Richardson. Get me out of here. Put me on another team and try and get a fresh start somewhere. Like you said, he's definitely got. Again, I think JJ McCarthy has more potential than Anthony Richardson. I think he showed that like last season in the the games that he did play. His is more injury. Like, he has the injury concerns, right? Like, I feel like QBs get that all the time anyway. So yeah, it's just a very strange thing. I don't know where he would go. I guess that the list is still the same, right? The list is the same as the ones you had given for Anthony Richardson, for JJ McCarthy. I don't think that list, it probably does widen a little bit for someone like JJ. But yeah, especially if he's not, like, if he is not participating in practice, that just has a bigger question mark over, is that because he's going to get traded? And if so, like, where's he going?
Right. I don't know. Somebody could take I mean, he didn't throw a lot at Michigan, right? His rookie year, and that was kind of the thing.
Yeah.
They won the national championship, but they did it on the ground. They didn't do a whole lot of throwing with JJ there. When he had to throw, he seemed to be pretty accurate, but there wasn't a whole lot of a sample size there when he came out of college. Watching the last preseason game over the weekend, obviously they were playing my Ravens, so I was interested and I'm watching it. And it seemed like this dude was just fastballing every throw that you could possibly throw. And I don't know if that's excitement or anger or, hey, I'm going to win this job. Whatever it is, it's not working for him because he's overthrowing. He's throwing it too hard. The wide receivers can't hang on to it. You got to have a little bit of touch on the ball. And maybe that's just something that he hasn't learned yet with all of these different, with all the wide receiver routes and all that kind of stuff, man. He seems very, very raw for being a third year guy. So to me, that was a little bit surprising. But if you don't mind, I'm going to breeze through a couple more of these. We had Trevion Henderson slipped and hurt his ankle. Apparently they kept him out of practice, but it's just for precaution. So don't worry, everybody. It seems like he's going to be okay. He literally just slipped. We had Chris Olave, had the wind knocked out of him today. Again, not a big deal there. If you saw anything online about Chris Olave, he's fine. He's breathing. Everything is great in New Orleans. They can't lose him. They just lost their number 2 wide receiver, so he's going to be fine as well. But sticking with wide receivers here, the New York Giants take a blow today with Calvin Austin III, who might have been projected to, hang on to a, wide receiver 3 option. Sounds like his knee injury was very serious, though. He needed to be carted off, and it's not looking good for Calvin Austin coming out of the Giants. So it seems like he was working one-on-one against Deonte Banks. His knee buckled, and pain ensued. And so it's not looking good. They kind of came out and said that, hey, it's not good when you see that kind of thing. You don't want to see it. Kind of the same thing as Ashton Janty. Maybe it'll be the same kind of an outcome, but it certainly doesn't sound like it at this point. Calvin Austin, not a big, fantasy guy. I haven't seen him being drafted there out of New York, but, well wishes to Calvin Austin there after coming out of Pittsburgh from last year. Hope he does recover from that.
Yep.
In other unimportant news, we had Kadarius Toney, who I didn't even know was on a team, got cut by Tampa Bay today. So, yeah, sorry, Kadarius. There's a guy who just wasted talent and wasted an opportunity away coming out of Kansas City with a Super Bowl. And, oh, boy.
Yep.
So, but that's it, man. That's my rundown of, injured players and players getting cut and all that fun stuff. Anything else that you think I missed, or is there something that you wanted to cover yet?
No, I don't think so. That's the main stuff, right? And just, hey, another couple of days closer to kickoff.
That's right. We've got 2 weeks to go. I don't like drafting as early as what we have been drafting just because of the injuries. That's my biggest thing. We've got our downfield read. I tell you what, I'm going to plug this. So I've got our downfield read keeper league, and it's family and friends. We've been doing it. This is going to be our 4th year. We are going to go live with this draft on Saturday. Let me pull up what Saturday. It's not this Saturday. It is it is this Saturday, the 29th. Wow, that snuck up fast. At roughly 4 p.m., depending on when we can gather all of the drunk uncles and stuff and get them all in the same room. That's going to be a lot of fun. So we are going to promote that one. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at for the day. We've We've hit our 1 hour mark, right on the nuts here.
Yep.
What do you think, man? This is good. I like this.
Yes, absolutely. Can't wait to do it next week.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Chris Iceman, do you want to plug anything else, or are you good, man?
No, that's it. Just at Iceman_1013 on X. You know, we roll into what we will plug. Be an English guy. EPL Premier League is back. Premier League is back. So that's where my focus is split between, you know, Premier League soccer and the NFL. So that's what you're going to get from me over there. But yeah.
Beautiful.
Not,
can't
I'll
wait
see
till
you
the
next
season
week.
starts. We're on Tuesdays. We can start to get into waiver wires a little bit more. Obviously, we'll still be discussing injuries and all that fun stuff. As for the Downfield Read channel here, we are on a pretty regular basis here. I was on another show last night with some guys who are really awesome. Addy, I'm drawing a blank. 2 guys, 1 pod. Sorry. And so, man, does he have some great stats and everything? It was fun talking with him and diving a little bit into ADP a little bit more. Thursday night, probably going to be a little bit shorter shows on Thursday nights from Downfield Read. Might even be more Ravens associated, because at this point in time in the season, we're really not doing a whole lot of, hey, start 'em, sit 'em type of stuff. We're going to save that for probably Sunday shows before the noon Central Time games get fired up. So tune in for that. And the only way that you're going to be able to remember these kinds of things is if you like, if you follow, if you subscribe. And do us a favor, man. Go ahead and give us some comments out here. Let us know what you like about the show. Let us know what you don't like. If there's something that you'd rather see, we're always open for questions. So please feel free to ask any kind of questions that you might have. And we'll go from there too. So as for me, Chris, thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure. Can't wait to continue to do this. And if I don't talk to you before then, which I'm sure I will see you next week, sir, on Tuesday night.
See you next week.
All right. Sir. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Appreciate it.